As we make our way into the cleansing chapel of the Cathedral of the Deep, we notice a small figure kneeling beside the altar. This stranger, upon approach, urges us to assist him in showing flame to his lady, and touching this piece of cloth he caresses so dearly in his hands. I like helping the homeless, well, it makes me feel good, so you always gotta show a little humanity, right? So why would I not help him out in this endeavor? Let's just kinda touch this thing and... We awaken, seemingly trapped in a cave in a foreign land. Welcome to Ashes of Ariandel, the first DLC released for Dark Souls 3. Chances are, if you happen to be playing this game for the first time, you might have just entered the DLC unwillingly. In comparison to the sequel DLC and ultimate conclusion to the Dark Souls trilogy, The Ringed City, I still quite adore Ashes of Ariandel, and I think it has a few nice little things to talk about, which we'll be doing today. Also, by now it has almost been a decade since Dark Souls 3 and its DLC released, so this might almost pass as a retrospective. To access the DLC, we need to speak to the aforementioned guy in the Cathedral of the Deep. He's there all the time as long as you have the DLC loaded, which makes this a lot more fun if you happen to stumble upon it blindly. As for the new content itself, we practically get one big new level with 2 bosses and a handful of mini-bosses. Actually, the big level itself is split up into a few subsections which we'll all explore and subsequently go over. By the end, we'll be able to form a very differentiated and professional opinion on how well this DLC aged. So let's start by going over the basics. Ashes of Ariandel was released to the public on October 24th, 2016, and they charge $15 for it, which is still the price to date. It's actually kind of crazy that they still charge $60 for this decade-old game, but whatever. We don't actually have any data on how many copies were sold exactly, but we do have the review data, which is not looking all too good for a FromSoftware launch. Mixed reviews at around 60% positive. Already shining a bad light on it, but let's actually boot it up now and take a look at it ourselves. We awaken in a small cave, beside the necessary bonfire to allow low-level characters to easily flee from the Painted World. The Painted World itself is a callback to, well, the Painted World we find in Dark Souls 1. It was a similarly disconnected, snowy level we could enter by touching a painting. We know Painted Worlds are actually painted worlds, as the name suggests, that serve as prisons for the unwanted or the banished. Going in with this in mind made me excited. What exactly would I find in here that was banished? These wolves? Soldiers? Apparently a chapel separated from me by only one of those wobbly bridges the people of this time love to build. At least this time I wasn't being chased by a billion skeletons. There's some edgelord leaning against the wall outside warning us to better leave again. And inside another woman tries to get us to leave, but honestly I didn't pay $15 to simply leave again. So I smashed the bridge the only way I know how to, and tada! The devs really did reuse that same old hidden ladder trick. And wow, now we can climb across branches while being shot at with arrows that explode shortly after impact. This is the first tense gameplay section in the DLC. Navigating these branches whilst never being allowed to stand still to avoid being blasted by an arrow or the ensuing explosion is quite something. And once we arrive at the bottom we find nothing. Oh wait, the devs spammed the reskinned ice crabs down here. And oh wait, this way is actually a boss fight, holy shit. The champion Gravetender. A boss already? Oh wait, it's just... really? This boss is just some random ass NPC surrounded by wolves. Oh wait, something's happening. It's just a big wolf now. It's just a worse version of Sif. And he does the same 2 moves again, and well, that's it. I wonder what I unlocked. Huh. Undead Match. Right, this doesn't even work. This boss is actually not as overwhelming at first. The only struggle to arise is if you're not able to defeat the wolves fast enough and are overrun, but still. The big guy and the little guy are both joke. There are no interesting moves at all, and the rewards basically boil down to a wet handshake. Oh well. It's time to stride on, I guess, because across the ravine I have found a humorously long ladder, and following this path we end up in some sort of sewer, but it's all rotted and disgusting. Seems like this is London? Wait, no, that was Birmingham, whatever. There's this incredibly tough and annoying clawed enemy that on its own could have been a more interesting boss than the Gravetender, and there is a bonfire. We have reached what the locals call the Corvian settlement, an incredibly dense village-type area with lots of small enemies. We actually climb up and around the buildings to unlock the church, where we're hit with the most intense dialogue in the whole series by that random cornball we met earlier.
I've seen your kind, time and time again. Every fleeing man must be caught. Every secret must be unearthed. Such is the conceit of the self-proclaimed seeker of truth. But in the end, you lack the stomach for the agony that you'll bring upon yourself.
This is a mini-boss that could also easily replace the Gravetender, but I'm gonna stop that now. No more Gravetender hate. Sir Villhelm is actually a really rough guy with all of his attacks. Also, this fight made me suspicious. Because before, he only warned us that we should better leave. And now we find him wanting to fight us to death. As if he was protecting something. We actually end up finding a secret path up into the church he did protect. And up that path, in the attic of the church, we find a strange lady who calls herself the Painter. She also asks us when Uncle Gale will return. I guess Gale was the guy before who brought us here. I bet he won't be important at all. It's time for us to continue our voyage, however, and into these rotted woods, which are overrun by soldiers that fire at us from all sides with crossbows. They're pretty weak and snap apart like twigs, but there are also so many of them everywhere that the game practically keeps you on your tippy toes. Moving along, we also encounter some Viking-type enemies, and eventually enter what seems to be a mine, but turns out to be a disgustingly rotted basement full of bloatflies. So this is what XQC keeps in his basement. We can eventually turn a valve down here that opens up the statue in the chapel to Friede's veil. And we could then head back out, but we're not quite done here. Seriously, I hate this stupid blood effect that just repeats again and again. Just take my health pots instead, man. Anyways, with this all done and dusted, we have practically seen all areas this DLC has to offer. Only thing left to see is the self-proclaimed highlight of this expansion. The final boss fight. And yes, it's a highlight because you need to be absurdly high to make it through this one.
Bring Friede to me, please. Canst thou not see the flame flickering once again? Soon will it surge. I can see it, feel it.
Fret not, Father. We have no need of thy flail. 'Tis only the flame quivering at misguided ash. Please avert thine eyes. I will snuff out these ashes for good.
We start off with a good old duel against Sister Friede. She's incredibly quick and hard-hitting, and she can actually dodge your attacks, so it kind of feels like one of those invader NPCs, just a lot more dangerous. She does an incredible job of keeping you on your tippy toes, and I like that you're not able to have an easy time by simply stun-locking her like most other invaders. Friede can also go invisible and require you to hear for her via sound clues or audio tells. Go watch my other video, please, 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 please. To tell where she is. And if you don't interrupt her fast enough, she'll unleash a pretty defty attack. Eventually though, she does go down. For now. Father Ariandel seems as unpleased with this alteration as me, but hey, it was only self-defense, right? She totally didn't tell me to back off a billion times and then send her cornball bodyguard after me. So it's a 2v1. Although, admittedly, Friede takes on a supporting role here as Father Ariandel relentlessly hunts us with his bowl of cereal. I'd go crazy too if I were strapped to a chair and forced to eat Cheerios on it. His attacks are easy enough to evade. The problem is that if provoked, Friede still likes to join in on the fun and shoots her eyeballs from behind whilst we're fighting Ariandel. Thankfully, these two do share a health bar, so it's not as stressful as one might think at first. We can even bring Slave Knight Gale in on the fun if we like, evening out the odds a little and making it a fair fight. But you know me, I'm an extroverted introvert and I do stuff on my own. And eventually these two go down as well. Man, what a fight. Friede and Ariandel are so different from most other bosses in this game. I get why everyone keeps talking about them. Wait a second. Why the hell didn't that banner show? Oh, you motherfucker! Well, it's not over yet. Friede comes back again, this time with 2 scythes, even faster swings, and black flames. And somehow even more HP than in phase 1. Arguably though, the most annoying part here is phase 1 and 2. I feel phase 3 is the most fun one in and of itself, but after a while phase 1 and 2 can be beaten easily by turning on your inner autopilot. And her new attacks aren't too complicated either, so it takes a few more attempts and boom, she finally goes down. We are rewarded this time with an actual boss soul, allowing us to wield said scythes with a cool unique moveset I should have definitely used more, and with another bonfire. Wait, well, why is there 2 bonfires in here? What the hell does this one do? Where am I? Wait, I should take a look outside. Oh, fuck. And we emerge to a sight all too familiar. But that's a tale for another time. Okay, so with the DLC done, let's speak about the lore implications here briefly. As we know, the world of Dark Souls is a world of cycles. And the world of Dark Souls 3 in particular is a tale about the end of these cycles. The cycle of fire and dark. But the painting is not really part of this world, it's more of a separate hidden dimension. Kind of like the paintings in Super Mario 64. I wonder where they got that idea. And inside of the painting, the cycle is one of fire and rot. Once we arrive, we slowly unravel that the world in here is rotting itself away and is instead meant to be burned away, so that the painter we found is able to paint a new world. Friede is the elder sister of the Sable Church of Londor, and like us, an unkindled. She flees into the painting and manipulates Father Ariandel into preserving the rot, so she can safely rest inside of her newfound home, away from the decaying outside world. Slave Knight Gale is really the opposite of what we first expect him to be. He seeks us out in order to bring us together with Friede, because if the ashes are 2, a flame alighteth, and so it does. Finally, once she resurrects herself a final time, gives into the fire, setting flames loose all across the painting. It shows that everything must end eventually, and that we can't extend things out to infinity out of comfort. But we can create something new and meaningful, like a new painted world, like the painter wishes to create. But in order to ensure that her new world is immune to the cycle of rot and fire, to ensure her new world doesn't end up in misery and is able to provide someone a safe and gentle home, she requires a special pigment. Let's think back for a second. Inside the fire, the lords found the souls of lords. But what did they also find? Or rather, what did someone find who is so easily forgotten? The furtive pygmy found the dark soul. She requires a pigment made of the dark soul. And only where could we find such pigment, I wonder. Okay, now let's sit down for a bit. Let's grab a hot drink and actually put a verdict on this DLC. So I think for $15, especially at the time, I think it's lacking a lot of content. But at the same time, I feel that this lack of content makes it like a lot more interesting and enticing. Especially looking at the world layout, like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of how it's all interconnected, how it's a really tight level, and how you can like explore it. And you can always turn around and look back and see some location you were already in, or some location you already are going to be in, which is not really the case in much of the other areas in Dark Souls 3 specifically. Like how it's probably not a good example, but how about in Ariandel, where you look around and you see all of these buildings, but you're really you're not in the town as much, if that makes sense. You really just ride through the streets shortly and then go through the sewers and eventually end up back on top. But here you're actually in the level, and they really make good use of the space they have in here. Boss fights, like I said, the Gravetender is a pushover, and I'm disappointed by that one. If they could have put Sir Villhelm there, I'm not gonna lie, that would have been a better boss. But Sister Friede and Father Ariandel are a really good boss, especially Phase 3 is incredible. It's the first 3-phase boss they ever made, I think. It's fucking good, it's exciting, and it's really difficult, I'll say that. It's difficult, but that's just how we like it. It's difficult, but it's not unfair. You can beat it without like having to study the whole boss. And yeah, I didn't talk about the weapons all that much. I didn't really use much of the new weapons. Friede's scythes are really cool. I think most of the other ones are pretty cool as well. It's just a problem in Dark Souls generally that you don't get to use a lot of the new weapons you find. And yeah. Besides that, I think it was a decent DLC. If I were to place it on a scale of 0 absolute trash to 10 absolute gas, it'd probably be the cliche rating of a good solid like 7. I give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. And yeah, I can only recommend this. Even 10 years later, it's still a fun time.